Hey folks, hope life is treating you well. Democracy. We've been talking a lot about conditions and flaws of democracy. We just want to make sure that you're on the right page when it comes to what you should know regarding the Social 30 curriculum and these democracy review questions. So first of all, we have a beautiful picture there of former President George W. Bush. I love the quote up at the top. And it says, if this were a dictatorship, it would be a heck of a lot easier as long as I'm the dictator. And that's my George W. Bush laugh, by the way. So you're welcome for that. By the way, it came on the news today that it is possible that, so it is April the 26th, and there's rumors that Kim Jong-un, the vanguard of the proletariat, the dear leader, may be dead. So let's just have a moment of silence for our friend Kim Jong-un. Okay, all done. Okay, I'm just kidding. He's a terrible human being. Let's talk about these questions. So number one, it says, why are periodic elections a necessary condition for a democracy? When I talked about this in the video, I said that elections are like a refreshing of the political landscape, right? They're like a shower. After a while, the people in government start to get a little bit complacent, and we need to have them scrub their pits a little bit, right? That's what a election does, right? That's what an election carries out, is it refreshes it. And here's the beauty of it. I mean, if you're doing a good job, right, and the people appreciate the job that you're doing, you're representing the will of the people in your constituency, when it comes to an election, you'll get voted in again, right? Easy peasy. But if not, then out you go, right? With the garbage at the end of the day. So that is why periodic elections are necessary. And remember, guys, here in Canada, right, at the federal level, they happen every 5 years. Provincially, they happen every 4 years. Here in Alberta and in the United States, right, their presidential elections are scheduled for the first Tuesday of November every 4th year. Now, number two, when it comes to an election, why are ballots a secret? Again, we want to ensure that the way people vote is in fact what their will is. We want to make sure there's no bribery. We want to make sure there's no intimidation when it comes to your choice in the democracy. So we keep ballots a secret. And of course, you get those divider things, right? Like, again, you should have done student vote in our school, right? If you don't go to ABJ, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But you stand in there, and, people don't get to see what's going on, right? You check off your little ballot, and then you fold it, and you put it in the ballot box, and that is that. Now, number three, political parties are a collection of like-minded individuals. Why do we have political parties in a democracy? Well, political parties exist, and they cover the gamut of the spectrum, right? From right of center to left of center, perhaps even far right and even far left, right? They can exist in a democracy. So why do we have them? Well, it's to represent the gamut of different opinions on things like the role of government, how the economy should be handled, etc. So if you're a more collectivist, socialist individual, you're going to be voting for more leftist parties. If you are a more conservative, a more sort of pro-capitalist and small government individual, you're going to be voting for those right of center parties. Now, if you're a Nazi, you can go far right, and if you're a totalitarian communist, you're going to go far left. Hopefully, though, we never have to vote for parties like that. Now, number four, universal suffrage. First of all, what is it? And then its conditions. So we'll talk about the conditions here in Canada that it requires for you to be able to vote. But first of all, universal suffrage means that everyone can participate in politics. And at its most basic level, participating in politics is when you vote, right? It's when you vote. So voting is the most basic thing that as a citizen in a democracy, you should be doing as a participant in that democracy. Now, here in Canada, what two conditions must be satisfied for you to be able to vote? Number one, you have to be a Canadian citizen. And number two, you have to be 18 years of age. As long as you meet those two basic conditions, you are allowed to vote. So whether you're a female or a male doesn't matter whether you have white skin, brown skin, black skin, red skin, yellow skin, green skin, pink skin. I don't know what color people can be, right? This whole gamut of the rainbow. And that doesn't matter, right? Your economic circumstance doesn't matter. Your sexual orientation doesn't matter. None of that matters in the eyes of the democratic system. Just got to be 18 and a Canadian citizen. That's it. Now, number 5, one of the most important conditions of a democracy is an independent judiciary. Why? The reason, guys, that an independent judiciary is important is because of the fact that we want to make sure, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, just because we want to make sure that the judicial system is ruling based upon what the law actually says, not what the executive branch of government actually wants. So judicial independence is a hallmark of a strong democracy, and you don't see it in countries like North Korea, China, Syria, former Egypt under Hosni Mubarak, right? Any nation that the outcome of a trial is predetermined, that is not a strong democracy, right? So judicial independence is incredibly important. Now, number 6, what is an interest or lobby group? Let's talk lobby groups for a sec here. Sorry, I just got to bring that up. So a lobby group is or also called a special interest group. They are groups that attempt to influence government legislation, right? And the second half of the questions that we looked at related to lobby groups. So lobby groups aren't necessarily good or bad. It all depends upon what they're actually trying to accomplish, right? And I gave you the example of like Ducks Unlimited, right? That's a lobby group here in Canada. I think it might even be in the United States of America as well, that looks to preserve wetlands, right? And that's not a bad thing. Environmental sustainability is not a bad thing, right? However, there's also lobby groups like, it depends upon your view on this, like the NRA. A lot of people view the National Rifle Association in the United States of America as a negative thing, because every time there's a mass shooting, the NRA, through its campaign contributions to certain candidates, is able to kill any sort of meaningful legislation. And I guess the question that comes from it is the government actually of the people, by the people, for the people, if there's this symbiotic relationship between those in power and these specific lobby groups, right? One argument in favor of lobby groups, right? It informs the people in power of certain perspectives, right? And that's important. An argument against it, and again, I think lobby groups are more negative than positive now after Citizens United in 2010 with the creation of super PACs. A major argument against lobby groups is the amount of power they have to either create or kill legislation, depending upon what they want, right? You or I really don't have the capacity to influence the electoral process, the political process, the way that corporations do. Now, as a Canadian, thankfully, this is not the case, but if you're an American and watching this, it is an absolute shame what your political system has become. It's no longer by the people, of the people, for the people. It's now by the rich, of the rich, for the rich. Look at who the president of the United States is. He is a billionaire businessman who surrounds himself by other rich people, and the legislation that they create is to benefit his rich friends. Okay, moving on. Number 7, function of media in a democracy. So guys, the job of media is to hold government accountable, to report the truth. And if something is going wrong in that country or that province or that state, to report about it and make sure those people in power are held to account. Without accountability in power, without the news reporting what's going on, everything's happening behind the scenes in the shadows, and we don't want that to happen, right? We want to make sure that, again, the decisions that are made and the money that government has, they're using it for purposes that actually benefit us, their constituents. Okay, now number 8. This is about voter apathy. So since the 1960s here in Canada, the general trend has been a decline in voter turnout, commonly called voter apathy. Why are people apathetic about voting? And to be honest, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand it, right? I said to you guys before that apathy is cancer for the democratic system. Apathy is not good. Go out and vote. Now, reasons why people maybe don't vote. So reasons why people don't vote? Well, I mean, economics is a very big factor in terms of people voting. Generally, affluent people, people who are middle class or higher than that, when it comes to their socioeconomic standing, they tend to vote. Poor people tend to not vote, which is not good. Maybe you're uninformed about the issues. Well, my response to that would be get informed, right? There's no excuse for not knowing what's going on in your country. I mean, the news exists, the internet exists. Get informed. A lack of capacity of speaking either English or French here in Canada, right? That could be a reason for not voting. But to be honest, there is no good reason for voter apathy. Get out there and make sure you cast your ballot. Now, number 10, party discipline. I mentioned how in parliamentary democracy, such as in Canada, there's this convention called party discipline where people vote along party lines, right? Whatever the leader says when it comes to an upcoming vote, that is what you do as a member of parliament. Now, why is this problematic? What if your constituents don't want you to vote that way? So are you going to vote based on what your people want, or are you going to vote based upon what your leader says? And 99 times out of 100, it's going to be you vote based on how your leader says. Why? Because that leader has the capacity to fire you. And let's face it, in the day and age where the human mind is able to pay attention for about that long, I mean, you make someone angry, you make your constituents mad for, a particular vote, and the next week they're going to forget about it anyways, because people live busy lives and we're bombarded with constant information. So you're probably not going to know anyways, or you'll forget about it down the road. Oh yeah, that guy made me mad, but whatever though. You know what I mean? You'll get over it. So party discipline puts people in democracies in a tough position, right? Because again, are the people who we elect in our representative democracy actually doing what we the people want, or are they doing whatever will keep them in their job? Now, number 11, second last one. In Canada and all nations of the world, we use representative democracy rather than direct democracy. Remember, direct democracy, plebiscites, referendums. We don't see those happening very often. Instead, we elect, like in Canada, members of parliament. And it is the job of these members of parliament to represent us, their constituents, the people in their riding or in their electoral district, right? Those three terms mean the same thing: constituency, riding, and electoral district. But it's their job to take what we say back to Ottawa and then represent that in the House of Commons. If we're talking provincially here in Alberta, right, there's 87 members of the Legislative Assembly, also known as MLAs. It is their job, based upon their riding, their constituency, or their electoral district, to take what we tell them back into the legislature, right, in downtown Edmonton, and to talk about what the people's will is. And yeah, so because countries are big and because there's lots of people, we use representative democracy. And then lastly, number 12, do you believe that democracy is worth preserving, and why? I hope your answer is yes, because it's not perfect, right? Democracy is not perfect, but you know what? Show me a better system where we the people actually have freedom and input into our lives, and I'll gladly support it. But until that happens, then I'm going to say every single time clearly that a democracy is a heck of a lot better than a dictatorship, right? No thanks. No thanks when it comes to a dictatorship. I got no truck with that whatsoever. I like my freedom, right? I like my freedom. So yeah, democracy, input in the political process, I think is incredibly important. So when the time comes and you are 18 years of age, get out there and vote. It is your responsibility as a citizen in a democratic society to make sure you are participating in that democracy. I love you guys. I miss you, and peace for all of you.